So before we just start to what is the OWASP top 10, we need to define what is the OWASP and what is OWASP top 10. So OWASP means Open Web Application Security Project. So it is consists of non-profit community of software developers and engineers and freelancers that provides resources and tools for web application security. Then what is the OWASP top 10? This is selected by OWASP group. Then OWASP releases a report on the 10 most critical web application security risks. So the latest version is released by 2017 November. So let me explain one by one what is the OWASP top 10. The OWASP top 10 list is like this. So the previous version of the OWASP top 10 is 2013. So OWASP top 10 is selected in 3 or 4 years interval. So latest version is 2017 and the previous version is 2013. Compared to 2013, and there are 3 new titles are posted in 2017. This is the XML External Entities and Insecure Deserialization and Insufficient Logging and Monitoring. So let's check what is the OWASP topic. The first is that injection risks. So an injection risk is the most vulnerable and common risks in our IT infrastructures. So an injection of code happens when an attacker sends invalid data to the web application with the intention to make it something different from what the application was designed and programmed to do. So some type of injections, but the most representative injection is the SQL injection. SQL injection means attack consists of insertion or the injection of SQL structured query language query via the input data from the client side to the application. So there have been one big accident by the SQL injection before that. It affected over 500,000 websites that had the YITH WooCommerce wishlist plugin for the WordPress before. So how the Monitorapp do the effectively prevent for these injection risks? We have so many policy, security policy in our own system. And when you are watching for this map in our UI, and there are several security policy of the Monitorapp. So related our security policies of the injection risk is the SQL injection and command injection detection. So this is the real log that we accumulated by the testing server. So if you want to more the specific explanation for why we depends against the SQL injection, and we can click this button and we can check the attacker's request is like this, and you can see the yellow section. Yellow highlight section is that analyze why we just selected. This is the SQL injection. So as is the method, we can defend against the SQL injection. The second is broken authentication. So broken authentication vulnerability can allow an attacker to use the manual or automatically to try to gain control over any account and they want in a system, or they even govern to complete the control over the system. So it could be possible to happen some broken authentication is that permits automated attacks such as credential stopping, where the attacker has a list of valid usernames and passwords. The other case is that permits brute force, where other automated attacks use weak or inactive credential recovery and forgot password process such as knowledge-based answers, which cannot be made safe. In the case, it could be happens the broken authentication vulnerabilities. So how we can securely defend for this vulnerability? We have several defense for the broken authentication. The first is logging fraud attacks. We already have a safety condition for the time interval that could be suspicious for the broken authentication. And we have 2 seconds, or 3 seconds, and 5 seconds. And also we can set the threshold. And it could be safely defense for the abnormal the access for the web server. We also have the capture authentication for the multi-factor authentication. So we have the multi-factor authentication. The broken authentication could be possible to defend. And number 3 is the sensitive data exposure. The sensitive data exposure is one of the most widespread vulnerabilities. It consists of compromising data that should have been protected. So if the attacker or the outside users want to try to access the targeting web server, it could be exposed or the sensitive data. So what is the sensitive data is that the passwords and credit card numbers and social security numbers and personal identifiable information is all sort of the sensitive data. So how the Monitorapp can securely protect this sensitive data exposure? We also have Monitorapp also have the policy security policy, and this is the log detail view. So you can see that personal information type, and we can as the attacker or outside as a user can request for this number like this personal number, like in Japan is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In that case, we can securely block and not open to the outside request. Number 4, the XML External Entities. It is the newly posted on 2017 OWASP Top 10. The ML External Entity attack is a type of attack against an application that parses XML input. XML is the kind of the language, and this parse means is the analysis of this language. So this attack occurs when XML input containing a response to an external entity is processed by a weakly configured on XML parser. So if attackers aim to the target server's XML parser, then they just penetrated XML in that the XML parsers, and then it is the target servers execute that the XML parsers, and infected malicious code infected is spread in all targeted server. So it could be possible to be infected in an XE, the vulnerabilities that exploitation of vulnerable XML processors if malicious actors can upload the XML or include the hostile content in an XML document, or that exploitation of vulnerable codes could be input in the target server. So in the same logic, how can we, this Monitorapp, can we just effectively defend against these vulnerabilities that we made by ourselves a rule, the security rule is, we call it system file access. So based on our system file access policy, text from XML documents could be detected and blocked. The logic for this system file access policy is that we all inspect for the outside attackers' request, the web traffic, since all we analysis is to have get a policies. So number 5 is broken access control. Access users cannot act outside of their intended permissions. The failures typically lead to unauthorized information disclosure, so modification, or even destruction of all data or performing a business function outside of the limits of the user. It is a serious problem due to the broken access control, and is also very common. So it could be possible to happen the broken access control is that allowing the primary key to be changed to another user's records, permitting viewing or editing someone else's account. Also, it could be possible alleviation of privileges could be happened. In that case, the acting as a user without being logged in, or acting as an admin when logged in as a user. So how the monitor can protect for these vulnerabilities? So Monitorapp have a policy, a security policy that we call it, the rule name is all access. So if the outside request is like this, and we just inspect all the host IP address, and we just can block for the abnormal access. And we also have another policy is called directive access. So we have categorized for our own directory. So if the access is not normal than before the previous one, and we just have analyzed this is the normal access or the abnormal access, and we just decide to block or pass. So number six is a security misconfiguration. The security misconfiguration is caused by improper server or the web application configuration, leading to various flows. As you can see, we have many vulnerabilities in our own web server or other security device. So even though we have the file or another UTM device, they also have their own vulnerability. If we do not have proper configuration for each device, it could be generated by the vulnerability, new to the vulnerabilities and risks. So if the insecure resources could be requested to the web server, and then it is a web server that's easily exposed or a gateway risk. So it could be possible for the security misconfiguration is that incorrect folder permissions. And also it could possible using default accounts or password, just using for the default accounts, but not changed the folder, not changed later. It could be possible due to misconfiguration, and it could be generated by new vulnerabilities. The setup for the configuration page is enabled. When the setup configuration page is enabled, it also could be generated risks, new risks. So how the Monitorapp effectively prevents for this matter? So we have a security policy that error page clocking. If the error pages could be generated, it could be just issued by the attacker's abnormal access. And this error pages is clocked by our swap solutions, and it could be just error for the possible to have a just problem or vulnerability against. So we also have another just security policy, which called the web server vulnerability detection and header vulnerability detection and application vulnerability detection. So we have several detections for these vulnerabilities. So number 7 is cross-site scripting. So we call it aggregated the method by the XSS. So XSS is a web security vulnerability that allows an attacker to compromise the interactions that users have with a vulnerable application. So there are 3 main vulnerabilities which the reflected XSS and stored XSS, the DOM-based XSS. There are 3 main XSS. So it is the simple mechanism for the how the attackers approaching the threat for the web server and the customers, users information. So firstly, attacker sends the script injected link to victim, and even the victim do not know if the script injected from the attackers could be input or not. And then just the victim just a link and connect to our target website. And after this, connect the victim's connection to our target website, the website executes the malicious script, and this malicious script automatically injected to the website, and malicious script sends victim's private data to attacker. So how do the Monitorapp to prevent for these vulnerabilities? So we have our own policy, the security policy called the cross-site scripting. So after we just analyze all the requests, and we just decide this is the not the normal access. And then when the program put on the web server, it is securely blocked by our cross-site scripting policy rule. We also have another additional rule for the blocking for these cross-site scripting, so which call it a cross-site with forgery attack detection. So attacker can execute what he wants by user without user's will. In the case, the attacker can induce user to click normal existing link. As a result of it, the attack is executed. So before we just analyze for this attackers whole just web traffic for the request, then we just prevent for this attack and for this threat. Number 8 is insecure deserialization. Insecure deserialization is a vulnerability which occurs when untrusted data is used to abuse the logic of an application, inflict a denial of service attack, or even execute arbitrary code upon it being deserialized. This process of deserialization is converting byte strings to objects. As you can see the map, we have serialization of the web traffic, and the some section have a problem. So it is turned red. This is the symbolic expression by ourselves. And how we can prevent for this insecure deserialization? So we also have many security policies, and we have one presentative policies, the application vulnerabilities. So with these application vulnerabilities, this policy support and detection against attack of remote code implementation and injection, etc. So number 9 is using components with known vulnerabilities. So known vulnerabilities are vulnerabilities that are discovered in open source components and published, the security advisory or issue trackers. So if the attacker is requesting a page using our vulnerability component, and the web server, what if they just respond, they disclose of the component version, and so with this disclosure of components, then the attackers have been easily attacking to the targeting web server, and then this web server's attack search for the vulnerability and discovered from the internet side, web server side. So what the most serious problem for this is that it's estimated that while over 80% of software includes at least some open source components. So almost 80% of includes some open source at the moment. So it is very serious. It could be very serious vulnerabilities. How to Monitorapp effectively prevents for these risks? So we have several security policies that could be defense against these risks. So first is application vulnerability. So with this application vulnerability, we can just filter after we analyze all the web traffic for the outside attacker or outside users request, and we also could connect our own threat intelligence called AICC in Turkey. And after we just connect with our AICC, so our all self-learning or the machine learning technology, it could be just automatically just improve our all this abnormal access or abnormal just malicious codes to recast. So it is one of our Monitorapp's advantage for using the threat intelligence AICC. The last one is number 10 is insufficient logging and monitoring, which is also newly posted in 2017 version and was top 10. So even though you just have focus on security for your web server, 100% security is not a realistic goal. There are ways to keep your website monitored on a regular basis, so you can take immediate action when something happens. So not having an efficient logging and monitoring process in place can increase the chances of website compromise. So for blocking this risk and vulnerabilities, so Monitorapp can analyze all the from outside traffic, web traffic, and as we just have a application for also we have our own technology with the patented, and we can just self-learning by ourselves. And after studying normal HTTP requests and response, if uneducated requests are detected, related log should be remained, and we just accumulate abnormal log. And furthermore, the requests are securely fenced. This is all the analysis of the OWASP top 10, how the Monitorapp can effectively defend against these vulnerabilities. If you have any discussion or any further request after today's webinar, please maybe use our partner portal and just give you any comments, any questions after the webinar. Is there any question for today's webinar? Okay, in that case, thanks for listening for today's webinar, and let's finish for this. Thank you, and have a good day.